Hey y'all, this is Cindy. I'm the Tireless Tangler, and you have arrived at day 13 of the 100 Days of Zentangle Project 2020. Thank you so much for being with me today. Every day we pick up new followers for this year's 100-day project, and I am thrilled to have each and every one of you from all across the world. Today's pattern is Paradox. It is by Zentangle's Rick Roberts, co-founder. And it is a straight line tangle the way we have been doing, the line tangle is part of what we've been doing. I don't think any of my lines have been straight yet. So Paradox is a very cool pattern, and a lot of people love it. And a lot of people do it in a lot of different ways. And if you are comfortable with Paradox and have tangled with it before and know what to do, you are free to go and make your tile or hang out with us. You never know when someone new brings a different way of looking at something, what you might learn. However, I'm not sure I have an interesting perspective for anybody who is experienced. Okay, so what I want for the rest of you is I want you to get a sheet of paper, a scratch page. I'm using my my sketch pad. This is a Canon mixed media sketch pad from Canson. I have done a lot of different sketch pads over the last 7 years, and feels like anyway, this is the one I like the best. It has a crisp white color for when I am drawing and trying things out. It also is awesome with wet media, so I can put watercolor or use my Derwent Inktense pencils in this, and it just makes it great. Paradox can be done pretty much in any shape that has angles in it. Now, the more sides you have on a shape, the more difficult it's going to be. But triangles, squares, rectangles, what's the next one? The one with 5 sides? I don't know. But try it out and see. I have an example here to show you real quickly of one that I did yesterday that had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides. So it can be done, but it does get messy the closer in that you get. Okay, so this is Paradox with 2 square shapes next to each other. This is Paradox in a triangle where I've divided each of these squares in triangle shapes. Okay? Paradox can also be done, thankfully, in wonky grids. The way that I tend to like to do things, they can be done in rounded shapes. The shapes do not have to have right angles, if you will. They can have some curve. And so Paradox is a fascinating mix of straight lines and possibilities, I think. So Simba may let us know he's here in just a minute. But what I want you to do today is get a ruler if you have one. This is the easiest way to make perfect squares, is you put it on your page at the top. You start by making a line on both sides of your ruler, and then you just move it down to the next line, and then you turn your ruler this way. I never, when I need perfect squares, I never measure. I just use my ruler crossways, and I have a perfect square. So if you don't have a ruler, any straight edge will do, and you can guesstimate them too. So let's start with Paradox in a triangle shape. All right? I want you to do a page like this, because if you have not done Paradox before, it will take practice. It's just one of those tangles that you have to practice. It is also one of those tangles that you need that you need patience to do. And since we know that is not my best thing, I do not do Paradox that often, although I am very comfortable with it. But it took doing it over and over and over and trying out the different configurations and seeing what looked nice. And I'm going to show you today how to get these pretty fan shapes. Now this is one of my wonky tryouts, and you can do this exactly squared and make it very, very geometrical. You guys know me, I like the curvy lines, so I tend to try to put everything with a curvy line, even if it's straight. It's just the way God made me. So I'm going to show you how to make these line up and get these pretty fan shapes. Okay, I'm going to show you an easy technique where you don't have to memorize things, you don't have to pre-plan it, you can just tell after you've drawn the first one where the next one needs to go. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to divide a square, and I'm not going to be able to turn my tile, so my lines may be a bit messy. It is hard to keep this in the camera angle and move the whole book. So let's give it a try and see how I do. All right, so for a triangle, let's just forget all the patterns and everything, and let's just do paradox in a simple triangle. All right, pick any corner you want. It does not matter which one. All right, I'm going to start with this one. And what you want to do is start in one corner, pick a direction. Again, does not matter which direction. You can go this way, you can go this way. And you want to make sort of an echo line that starts at the corner and then widens at the end. All right? That's not too hard. It's the next few steps that get you. All right. There is Simba. There is a very frisky bird over here causing him a lot of anxiety. Say hi to the people. Say hi to Karma, Simba. Now that I'm looking at him, we won't talk. Okay, thank goodness. Let me look at you again. Hopefully that squirrel will stay away. All right. So the next one starts where you stopped the line. Now, well, let me not say that because I pulled in. You could push out. It doesn't make a difference. And so what you want to do is start at the wide end of the line you just drew. All right, and you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to start at this line and you're going to echo the line next to you, and you're going to make it wider at the end, just like you did on this one. This is where you turn your tile, and you're going to again start at the wide part and go up to the next line. Okay, now it's repeat. And again, this does not sound difficult, but it is very easy to get turned around and forget which direction you're going. Always start at the wide point where you left off and coming down a little wider on the end and stopping, then starting at that point. And each one is going to end on the line you just drew. Each one starts at the wide spot, small, and goes up to a wider point. And the closer you get to the center, the easier it is to do, if you pay attention. This is a triangular paradox, okay? Let's do one right here, but do the square version, all right? So we're going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to pick a starting point, and I'm going to start at this same point where we started the triangle, right here. And I'm going to pull down and make my wide point right here. Yes. Then we're going to again repeat from the point where the wide spot ends, forms the beginning point of the next one. All right, now we're going in the opposite direction here than we did up here. It does not matter. Okay, so again, start at the point where you just stopped. and make another line. This is the whole tangle. Now again, if you do like I do and you're continually shifting the side that you're drawing from, you get very uneven lines. If, on the other hand, you are working on a tile, which we will here in a minute, and you are turning your tile for each time so that your stroke is exactly the same on each side, then you're going to get very consistent lines and a very nice look to your paradox. And I will tell you that Rick Roberts is the slowest person ever to draw paradox, but his paradoxes are clean, and even into the center of them when he draws them, he is slow and he turns his tile each time, even though it would be easier, quicker, and more expedient to do it the way I did. He still turns his tile. So once again, you start at the wide point, make your narrow point and go out wide again, turn and repeat. And again, because of the camera angle and me not being able to shift this very well, I am not doing that, but I want you guys to learn the best way and not this way. Okay? Keep going around. Now, you can see in here, it's very confusing. Sometimes I cheat and just finish it up. And that is paradox in a square. When you get to the point where you are ready to do more than one of these at a time, and I want you to practice these, practice them over and over on your page so that you can see, whoops, the sun is going down and clearly through my tree. So at this point, you want to figure out how to put these together to make those cool patterns you're always seeing, right? So I'm going to show you back my examples here. See if I can explain that a little bit, okay? I'm actually using a light, but you can't tell because the shadows are so strong. Okay. All right. So this is paradox in two adjoining squares. And see how the way that I have placed them has made these pretty fans here, 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 okay? And I've even managed to join them up to the triangle side, which I did triangles here and here. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do this, and you don't have to think about it. It's gonna be easy for you, I hope. All right, so there are a couple of ways that you can configure paradox, and the one that I see people most drawn to seems to be this fanning pattern, right? And of course you can put them in different ways and get something entirely different, and that's why I want you to have your notebook all mapped out so that you can play with them in different configurations. The way that you figure out how to get the fan shape is by the way that you configure them when you put them into the pattern, okay? So over here, whoops, wrong page. Let me show you how that is done, okay? We're going to work with strictly triangles right now so that it doesn't get too confusing. I'm going to draw a dividing line. Let's work down here. Through this square, and whether you're doing paradox in a square or in triangles, it doesn't matter. This is going to be the same. So to get the fan pattern, what you do is you have two adjoining triangles, right? Okay. And when you start one, you want to, where you want the base of the fan, the little point of the fan, you want to start at that place and move out from there along the line, okay? So start here, like this. Now, you're going to continue your paradox in this triangle. Sorry again about the lines. And if you find yourself putting a little curve in your lines, don't freak out. It actually works really well. And the pattern itself sort of makes you do that at some point. As you get in closer to the center, it sort of naturally forms that. Okay, so there is your paradox on one side. Now, how do you get the fan? This is one half of the fan. If you can see, here's the point of the fan, and it's going out this way. So what we're going to do is on the other side of the square, we're going to do a mirror opposite, okay? So again, we're going to start in the same place, but we're going to go out to the other side, and we're going to go out to the other side and work on our fan. Okay, so I've made my first stroke, and from there, I'm going to do the exact same thing I did the other way. All right, so we made our first stroke this way, second stroke. When we come down here, if you can, it doesn't always work out, but if you can, make your width match the other side right there. So it would look like this. Okay? So you don't have to think, you just have to do the mirror opposite. In order to get the fan shape, you just need to do the mirror opposite. And that is the same in squares as well. If you will do the mirror opposite of where you stopped, and I'll make an example of that here in a minute, then you will get the fans. Now, you don't have to have fans. You can do this. Nope, that's right. There we go. Shouldn't talk and do this. So, you see that just by putting these together and doing one side in a mirror to the other side, we have achieved our fan shape, right? And what I did on this tile was I made a 4 square with, curves. And I put my triangles this way, worked out, and all of my bases together. And so there was a tiny bit of planning in that I just knew that I wanted to make my triangular pattern look like this. And if you'll look, this is what I have. So what I did here is I made my triangle shape in a cross. Whoops. Did my dividing lines in a cross shape. And so what you're going to have, if you start with your bases and go out. Now, if you set this up in a cross like this and you want to turn it around and you want the fans together and the base out at the end, you do that. The only thing you have to do is start, nope, wrong way. This way and this way on the other side, and make it move out from there, and then you have a different fanned look. I don't know if you'll be able to tell with these wide lines. Now, another tip for you with paradox: the denser, the more close together you pack your lines in this, as long as the lines are consistent, the more of an optical illusion you will get. Meaning, if I pack my lines, let me finish this. If I pack my lines like this, pack them very densely, make the wide end very narrow. When you do it this way, you get much more strong optical illusion feeling. I mean, even widely like this one, you get that. But the more narrow you make your lines, and the more consistent they are, the more you're going to enhance that optical illusion. And if you get one big gap and you don't like that, and you want to, well, don't do it like that, but you can always pack those in more later and nobody's going to know any different. You know, as long as you do keep them all that way. Well, sort of like that. All right, so let's do a square real quickly and look at how that looks. So let's use this square, okay? This square right here. And remember, we started right here. And you may want to give yourself some indication of where you're starting, since, you know, if you're new to this pattern, and you might need a little work on that. But in order to make this flow from square to square, you're once again going to want to do the mirror opposite. So here is your start point. You're going to come up like this. Yes, and then you're going to have this fan going across. Now the fan with the squares is a little bit longer and different shaped than the triangular one, but again, that's something you can experiment with and enjoy the fun. So now let's get our tile, and I wanted you to do a whole sheet because I want you to draw this. I want you to draw it over and over and over. So if you're new to this pattern, it just takes practice. It just takes practice. All right, so I'm going to attempt to make this setup into a pattern where I've got the fans coming out and the little points on them at the center. Okay, and we're going to see how this works out. I had a plan for this, but it didn't work out, so I have started a new tile. I have also changed to a sepia pen. You can't tell. You'll be able to tell once it gets started. Because my 01s in black just did not have the ink I needed for this. I'm going to try to pack these fairly densely, but again, I really struggle with these types of tangles because of my shaking, and I just am never really satisfied with the outcome. But we are going to give it a try today. I'm going to do it with you. And if you are new to this, then we will struggle through this together. And if you're not new, hopefully you didn't have to watch the whole thing. I'm just teasing. I want you guys to stay here as long as you want. In fact, if you have missed any of the previous videos, you can catch up on them anytime. There is a 100 Days of Zentangle playlist on my channel for 2020, and you are most welcome to follow that or even share the playlist so that everybody can know what all of the patterns are. I did see a comment, and I think it's been a few days back, that somebody was asking somewhere, and maybe it was Facebook, because I still haven't logged on to Facebook. And so if you guys are asking me questions over there, I'm probably not getting them. But somebody was asking if there were a master list of the tangles we were doing this year, and no, there's not. What there is every day I go to Tangle Patterns and decide what will roll us easiest from the last pattern to the next one. And I do a little shopping. I take a look at some of the new tangles that are out. But what I put in my first priority is what you guys have asked for. And again, I know that like yesterday we did a radial, and I know that Tomas's patterns are a challenge for a lot of people, but I don't think that's a reason to give up on them, even though they are sometimes challenging for me. It takes me a while to noodle things, and so anyway, okay, so I've got this one, right? And so in order to make this the fan shape that we are looking for, or that I am looking for anyway, I'm going to pull from right here and do the mirror opposite, and then move from here out. Didn't quite get that tucked in good. All right. Once again, follow your lines of the grid that you drew. If it curves, then curve with it. If it doesn't, then go straight. If it does something completely different, then more power to you. Okay. Turning your tile each time really does help you keep from getting confused. And if you'll notice, even though I am following the lines on this, I am still doing paradox, starting at the wide point, making another widening stroke, turning my tile, starting from the point where I ended the stroke, drawing another one, turning the tile, and repeat. Again, turning the tile each time really helps to not get you turned around. I cannot tell you, even after being very experienced with this pattern, I cannot tell you how often it happens that I get in the middle of one of these and forget which way I'm going, and I start at the wide point, or start at the small point and end up at the wide point, and that's never a good thing. So although it might turn out to be something new, so give me a try if that happens. Give it a try if that happens to you. And there we are. Now see, I really like the way that flows. Really like that. Now, I think I'm going to repeat that on, again, the mirror opposite side. And making my point the same as I started on the other side. Okay? So once you have your beginning stroke, the rest is the rest is not easy, but it is similar. Once again, when you're doing this across corner or across sections, it's always a nice touch if you can line up where you come together, but don't sweat it. If that doesn't work out, it's going to be okay. Now, if you'll notice, we are doing the fan pattern coming this direction now. I'm still following the curve of my line, and in that case I got a little curvier. But following the natural line of the border that you drew is going to really enhance it if you are going to do what I have done, which is perk things up a little bit from just a straight thing. But there is nothing wrong with the straight. I like the straight. I just have an easier time with curves, and that's okay. Everyone tends to have a preference on the types of tangles that they use. I think that's one reason why at Tangle Patterns they have them divided up into types. And if you go there and you want a specific type, but you don't know what tangles there are in that category, you can look on, I believe, on the side of the screen, and she has everything from a tangle randomizer to which helps choose the tangle for you, to you know, things like ribbon tangles and organic tangles, and you know, that kind of thing. So grid tangles. So whatever it is that appeals to you, whatever type of tangling appeals to you, I really want to encourage you to indulge yourself. Make it happen. All right, so that actually turned out fairly nicely for me. And I do like this curve that's happening. So now I'm going to turn my tile again and do, again, mirror opposites. Oh, whoops. And this one can, whoa, got a little nutty there. This one and this one here are going to sort of, kind of match. All right. I really should leave this alone. That never ends up well for me, does it? And up here, again, I looked at where the lines were coming from on the other side, which makes for a nicer look when you're finished. Okay. Rinse and repeat. And this one we did not have a matching one for because that was too far up on this side, and that's okay. It does not have to be perfect. It does not have to have the exact same number of lines. Some of that is going to naturally occur. But remember, do mirror opposites. Do opposite strokes both with your opposing triangles and with your complete pattern. You always want to do the opposite. Okay, so, and the best thing is to not stop and talk in the middle, then it's very confusing. I'm supposed to do this next. And if I'm not, if I got an extra line in, it's going to be okay. I'm not going to sweat it too much. And again, if you have, like here, if you feel like that gap is too wide, and you were able to do it a little bit better than this, just add one in, just like that. Nobody's going to know, nobody's going to care, everything's going to be all right. Now you got me singing again. In my head, in my head. And that's what I mean about getting in a hurry. Don't get in a hurry. Take your time with each stroke. I really highly recommend you guys who have not seen Rick Roberts draw this pattern that you go here on YouTube and go to the Zentangle channel and watch. They have several versions of Paradox there. Or if you're on the Zentangle Mosaic app and you get the kitchen table tangles, you can also see him there, and those are awesome. If you're not, if you don't participate in Zentangle Mosaic, I can't explain to you how pivotal that app was to me before I ever became a certified Zentangle teacher before I ever even knew that was a thing. Back when I was first starting out, and I was wanting to share my art but scared to. And that is a beautiful community of people who love Zentangle and who are caring and kind and compassionate, full of ideas and inspiration. And it's not just for CZTs. Lots and lots of non-CZTs are on there. And so I really encourage you, if you are curious about Zentangle Mosaic, give it a try. It's like in the US, $2.99 a month, $2.99 a month. Sure, for you guys with better economies than we, your prices are not quite so painful, but that's not very much money. And for a community of people that are just going to, I've never seen anybody say a mean thing, ever. Not ever on Mosaic. They do caring comments, they tell you how beautiful it is, they tell you what they like, they never ever tear you down. So this is what I came out with. I really like this, but let me tell you the other magic of the pattern paradox, and that is the shading part. So this is my Prismacolor Verithin. It's in black. This is Prismacolor, but it is very hard, and the color from this is not opaque like the Premier pencils. This is a very light cover, and although it does shine a bit, it shines less than when I use graphite here. What you want to do is where each point, where the lines converge, where they come together, you're going to shade, okay? And don't be afraid to shade pretty darkly. The more you shade there, the more your pattern is going to pop out. So I gave this multiple layers when I did my other tile. And I wish that the lighting, that I had a different light for this, because it really is causing the colors to fade out, or the depth of the shading to fade out, and you really can't see how dark I've got it. And I'm having that problem when I photograph them too, is that they never turn out as dark as they actually are. And you know me and the dark shading, I like that. So when you get to these places, you're like, where do I shade? Shade where the lines come together, not where they're spreading out, okay? Now keep in mind, if you do something with a colored pencil, that is fine, but make sure that you understand that you have to be able to blend that in some way, or it might be worse than it's worth. It might... I wouldn't normally shade with a colored pencil unless I were using my blending solution or an alcohol blender or something like that. Now I want this to be fairly dark. Particularly along the edges where the fans come together. And I do, by the way, have an alcohol marker that I'm going to use to get this not to be so streaky here. It'll blend this out. Tip for you: colored pencils. You don't have a blending solution, which I do have, and you really need to blend out your colored pencil. You can use regular ethanol alcohol, rubbing alcohol that you have in your medicine cabinet for blending colored pencil. The best way to do that is to soak a tortillon in alcohol and then go to town with it. Or to use one of the alcohol marker things like the Copic blenders. The thing I found out is that the rubbing alcohol works too. It is a little harder on the tooth of your paper, in my opinion, and I feel like it dries out my color a little bit. But in a pinch, it's definitely a workable way to blend your colored pencils. I did not know that when I started. You can also use Vaseline, although the problem with Vaseline is that yucky residue that you get afterwards. And I tried that once or twice and went, yeah, it's not worth it. So, but again, in a pinch, if that's what you've got to use, then you might want to try that. Just make sure you get as little of the Vaseline on the page as possible. Make sure you keep that wiped down really well. Okay, and now over here, again, where the lines come together, where they converge, that is where you want to put down your shading. And again, I'm putting down a pretty dark coat, even though it does not look that dark from where I am, or on the camera, rather. It will work. Now, you cannot erase colored pencil, and so in the little spots where I got it in the wrong, well, I say you can't. You might be able to, and these Varathins, you might be able to lift a lot. Don't make fun of my eraser, people. It works, and it's colorful, and it makes me happy. Okay, so I was able to lift that out, and the Varathins are easier to do that with. They may still be wax base, I'm not sure exactly, and you can use your pencil to lift up some of that if you got too much. Now, you don't want to erase very hard on Zentangle paper. If you're using Zentangle tiles, you will really mess up your tooth, and even on hot pressed watercolor paper. You just want to be careful. If you're going to erase, to be very gentle with it. Don't scrub really hard. That will destroy the tooth of your paper. But now what I might do is go over that with my burnt umber and just bring out just a hint of brown. I don't think you can see here. It's just browning up the black just a tiny bit. And again, use these with caution. It's not that there's anything wrong with using colored pencils in Zentangle art. That is a beautiful thing. It's called Zentangle inspired art. And that is how most of mine end up, because who doesn't want to add a little color here and there, right? But if you do, just keep in mind that colored pencil, regular color, the Prismacolor Premiers do not erase. You might be able to lift up some, but you're not going to be able to make a significant difference there. Let's see what happens here. But that's sometimes with a tile, if it gets messy, or if you have laid down too much graphite, the best thing you can do is just lift some of it out, and you're all good to go. All right, so I don't know if you're going to be able to tell from what we did here. Maria Thomas reminded me at seminar that these are not meant to be looked up close. These are meant to be looked at arm's length. And so a lot of problems that I have, that I see, especially when I record these videos, a lot of my issues I find can be solved with just moving it out to arm's length and calming down a little bit. So let's put our chop in. I think I'll do it right here. I don't have the energy to figure out how to do this with Paradox, so we're getting the normal one today. All right, guys, this is Paradox. I hope this helped you a little bit to decipher the patterns and how to make them work for you. I know this was just a quick video, but I hope that it helped you in deciphering Paradox a bit. and figuring out some new ways, perhaps, of looking at it. So I will see you guys tomorrow for day 14. Thank you so much for being with me today, and I will see you then.